How old were you when the war started?
I was in high school. I was a senior. I was about 17.
17? What were your feelings about people from the surrounding communities leaving for the war?
Oh, we hated to see everybody go. I mean, because that was just our age group, so we hated to see them go.
Yeah.
I didn't have any brother, but you just had a lot of friends. You
Yeah,
hated to
your
see them
friends
go.
went? How many of your friends went?
Oh, I don't know. A lot of. It seemed like all of them are gone.
All of them?
There wasn't any boys that seemed like around. There just, there just wasn't anybody hardly around.
How were the food rations set up?
We had a food ration board, and they gave you stamps, kind of like a coupon book.
Mm-hmm.
And, you couldn't get things like meat and coffee and sugar. Sugar, you couldn't get sugar at all. You had to have, and everybody saved their rations for their sugar. And you had so many stamps for how many having a family. And if you lost your stamp book, you had to go and reapply again. It was kind of hard to get it back again. But you got along, and you learned to use things like you use molasses instead of sugar. And we lived on the farm where we had the milk and the eggs and the meat and stuff like that, where we weren't affected like people had to buy it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you just didn't go to the grocery store and buy what you wanted to. If you had something sweets, candy. I can remember candy. You didn't have candy. And it was kind of one of those things. And I don't remember soda pops and stuff like that. We didn't drink that many like you do now. I mean, It was kind of a treat for us. I don't remember having soda pops at home, so we didn't miss that,
What were some of the things you went without? Like you said, you couldn't get pantyhose anywhere?
No, you couldn't get pantyhose. You couldn't get gasoline. Gasoline was about the same time like the food. You had, as I remember, you had maybe coupons for that. Or anyway, you could just get so many gallon. I don't remember, they had coupons or they just allowed you so many gallon.
Mm-hmm.
They kept record of it somewhere or other. And you really watched your miles. You didn't go places where you didn't want it. You just didn't go out for a ride, go out for supper or anything like that to take the miles. But there was, I think about hose, I think, more than anything else, and cosmetics, and it just seemed like everything was just put aside. You did with what you had. I mean, you just didn't expect to go get your new dress and things like that, because you just, kind of use your money for whatever you had to have, But I remember waiting in lines for a hose. I remember Aunt Florence telling one time about she saw a line up at Fort Wayne at Murphy's drugstore. And she said, I didn't know what they was in line for, but she went and got in line. Because whenever you saw a line, it was something hard to get. Mm-hmm. So she got in line, and she got a pair of hose. So she took those, and she went back, got in line again, got Mother a pair of hose there. And boy, you took care of those hose, too. Of course,
what did you use instead of hose?
Well, cotton socks. No, I tell you what us young girls did. We had stuff that looked like face makeup, and we'd put that on our legs, and it looked like hose. I mean, it just this liquid makeup, and then we put that on, and it looked like hose. Only at that time, they had not runners, but seams up the back. Well, we couldn't hardly get those seams up the back of our legs, But that's what we'd wear. I don't know what happened. We got stuck in a rainstorm. I guess we got washed off.
Let's see. What changes in your school were there?
I don't remember too much because, like I say, I was a senior, and that was in December, and I graduated in May, and I don't remember that much in that part of it because it was just kind of getting started,
mm-hmm.
and probably the only thing I could say I remember is like maybe some of the boys leaving to go to service, but I don't even remember that. I couldn't name somebody that left right now, off my top of my head.
Let's see. Could you tell me anything about the victory tax?
I remember they had it. And we didn't like it, but we knew everybody was, I'm not going to say for the war, but they were willing to work for it, and they were willing to do that. I mean, they were willing to pay, although they didn't like it, because they knew that, and at that time, I think things pretty well went more for what they said it's gone for than maybe you feel like it does now.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you give something now, maybe it goes, maybe it don't. That time, you had the feeling, maybe I was young and naive, I don't know, but I just felt like if I paid my taxes. And, of course, I wasn't working just yet. I started working, though, in the fall of 42. So, I mean, it would have had some taxes off. But for our first paycheck, it was taken out. So, I mean, I didn't miss it because it was just one of those things, you know.
Did you think it was good that we were involved in the war?
I don't think any war is good. I don't like any war. I don't think anybody ought to argue. I don't think anybody ought to fight.
So you didn't think we should be in it?
To me, I don't. I just don't. I don't think so.
What changes money-wise did your family have to make?
Well, we didn't have any money to start out with, so we didn't have to change too much. We just had to stretch our dollars to get what we needed, what we could with what we had. I mean, I always said we were poor, but I didn't know I was poor.
Mm-hmm.
We had plenty to eat and a place to sleep, and family that loved us, and you know, what else more could you ask for? You know, we didn't expect things. You know,
Yeah.
didn't expect 2 or 3 dresses, or you didn't go to the beauty parlor, or you didn't. All things like kids didn't have cars. They anything like that. We just didn't accept the habit, so we didn't expect it. We didn't miss it.
But it didn't affect you because you had like milk and stuff out
We had
there,
we
right?
had plenty to eat. On Mother
Yeah.
Can, we had a big garden, and we had our fruit trees and the eggs, and like I say, the meat, and so we really didn't miss it too much.
Okay. Did you ever want to do anything to help in the war?
Oh yes, I went home one time and told my mother I was going to join the waves. She said, "Oh no, you're not." And I didn't question her. I just didn't question any part of her. But I had made up my mind that I thought that would be good. Yes, I'll have to say what I did. I worked at the Selective Service, and that was the place where they sent the boys off to. So I felt like I was very much involved. In fact, I'll show you right here. This right here is one of the papers that they used to send out to the boys. Now, I've just filled that out with my name and everything. Mm-hmm. But that's like the papers that the boys would get in the service when, greetings.
Yeah.
That's one of the original forms. And then this is your grandpa's card. It was sent in April 1944, showed what his classification was. And the 2C is a farmer. But he didn't pass because his heart.
His heart.
Uh-huh.
So they just classified him as a farmer, so he wouldn't have to go.
They classified him as a farmer. He would rather had a 2C than a 4F. Nobody wanted a 4F, because that meant that they. But he was a farmer, and they were depending on him. But they had to have some of the farmers out. But that's the reason he wasn't in there. But this is the original paper that they sent out to the boys, and I filled out lots and lots and lots of those. And also another thing too, there was the food rationing board. Was it the food rationing board? I guess that's what it was. Was in the courthouse basement at Paris and at Edgar County, and they were right next door to us. So some of the times I do some of their typing for them, and then later on, and that wasn't part of my job. It's just I had time to do it. Later on, Walter Tucker came in, and he was one of these men that took care of the soldiers when they came back and filled out their, not the discharge papers, but papers that they had to fill out to. Well, maybe it wasn't discharge, but maybe disability papers, or anyway, some kind of papers they had to fill out. I know he didn't have a secretary, so I done a lot of his typing for him. Mm-hmm. But we had our offices just all right down the courthouse basement there.
Yeah. What were your lifestyle during the war?
Well, I got me a job, like I said, Selective Service, and Eileen was working at the public assistance, and so Dad was working in town, and like I say, we'd have gas. We had one car. And our hours weren't the same because Daddy didn't work the 8 to 5 job. Mm-hmm. And so Eileen and I got us an apartment in town, stayed in town. And maybe that was an excuse to get, like young kids like to go on their own. But we really didn't have any way to get back and forth. And so we stayed in town, and we didn't have a car in town. And if we went any place, we walked, or we all had bicycles, we rode bicycles. And there was our activities. Of course, like I said, there wasn't any boys around,
Yeah.
But I know once a month by the, what was that called? The Knights of Columbus had what they called a round dance. And they'd have this half square dance and half social dancing, and we'd always go there. And there wasn't boys, so girls danced with the girls, and they was doing the jitterbug at that time, and the square dance and the foxtrot and the waltz and all like that. But girls would dance with girls, and we would look forward to that. And then we joined what we called Real Youth, which was a group that was too old for 4-H, and like between, I think, 15 and 20 or 25, and Oh, we had so much fun with that. We gathered together once a month, and maybe we do different things like go out to children's home or a lot of different things we did. But it was just kind of a bunch of the boys that was here because they were farmers on the 2C. Why they came in and we got together with Clark County and so on like that. That's how I met your grandpa is through Real Youth and Edgar County and Clark County, and we really enjoyed that was our life then at that time. Of course, we went to church on Sundays. You know. We always had gas to go to church on Sunday.
Did anybody that you know died in the war?
Yes. My sister was engaged to a boy. I'll show you his picture right here. And he was in the Mediterranean, and he's a McConkey. He's related to all McConkeys, Wayne McConkey. He was related to all McConkeys here in Marshall. And he was in the Mediterranean on a Monterey, Monterey, Monterey boat, and it went down and they never did find him. In fact, this boy and this one, they were all the same, went together. And there was a lot of them lost. They just never know anything about him, any more about him at all. But Eileen, she wouldn't give up for a long time. She kept saying, well, he's going to come back, but of course he didn't, and she kept writing to him for a long time. But, oh yeah, I knew a lot of people that was killed. Now this book I've got here is full of, anytime a picture came out in the paper, I cut it out and put it in there. Of course, it's mostly from Edgar County, but there's Clark County ones in there too. But I would put that in there, and I've got the ones that died up in front, so I know a lot of them in there. I mean, maybe some of them by name, but some of them personally too, you know.
Yeah. What were your feelings when you heard the war was over?
I didn't know it till later because I was in a real youth camp up at Bloomington, Illinois, and we didn't really hear about it. You know, like everybody talks about all the shouting and everything like that. We didn't. We were up there in the woods, and when we finally did, I don't think we heard about it until we came out of that woods and started home. And of course, I mean, the shout and all that was all over with, and I've always felt bad that I missed that. You know, I just feel like I missed part of it, but we were sure glad. I mean, it was just like a relief. Of course, I knew my job was going to be over, too. But that was all right. I was still young. I could get me a job someplace else, but and it wasn't over immediately. I mean, I didn't, well, that was in 45. I guess I left about 46, so I'd had about another year there. But that was, and it wasn't really over for me. The only reason I quit was because the girl is, they call him chief clerk, she was the head up, and then I was the next one under her, and I knew that there's just going to be one of them left there. Well, since she was over me, I knew she would be the first one, you know, and so I got a chance to go to another job, and I hadn't been that other job a month till she called up and wanted to know if I would come back and be chief clerk because she decided to get married. Well, I really didn't want to go back because I felt like that was a big responsibility, and then I didn't know how long that was going to last. And besides, I met Grandpa in the meantime.
Yeah.
And I began to think of other things.
What was the one thing that you always remember from the war?
Well, there was good times and there was bad times. It was the good times was when somebody would write and say, I'm going to be home for furlough for so many days, and boy, you cherished those days. I mean, you just couldn't wait for those days to come, but they would go by so quick, and all the young men walking up and down the streets in their uniforms and how proud their families were. And, oh, I'll tell you, those Marine uniforms, they were so sharp. Oh, they were good looking. But the others were, too. I feel there was a lot of sadness, too, just like the McConkeys, you know, something like that. They never get over anything like that. And you always think about if there hadn't been a war, why, what would have been, but, you know, different things come up. But I think you learn to appreciate things a lot more. And something like that happens. You learn to appreciate the fact that they weren't fighting in your country and blowing up your towns and all your buildings and things like that, which I think that would be horrible. The nights, blackouts, and all that sort of thing. You know, that would have been that would have been bad. They had sirens that they would have sounded if we needed. We had drills. You know, every once in a while, they'd have the drill, and we'd have to empty out the courthouse, and it was just a practice. You know, but we knew what we were supposed to do, but not too much. I mean, you know, they didn't. But over in the war zones, oh, that would have been awful. and hear the planes going over.
Yeah.
I'd think that people now, when even that have lived through that, when they hear planes come over, that still be a feeling in their minds, you know. But
Yeah.
you had a lot of pride to think that, and so happy when somebody came home and they got back home, and boy, when they got their discharge, it was such a relief, and so glad you couldn't believe that they were home to stay, you know. The boys got a lot of experience too. I mean, the ones that got over and got back, they got to see a lot of country they probably wouldn't otherwise. But it was hard. It was hard, very hard for them.
Was there ever an incident where, like, one of your parents or one of your friends' families got, like, a letter saying that they were missing in action and they really weren't?
Oh yes, I can't exactly say right now, but yes, a lot of times they did. I can't really tell you just who it was, but I could look through this book and tell you, you know. But that's been 50-some years ago,
Yeah.
so that's a long time for me to remember back. But yes, I can remember that there would be people that would get word that their family was missing, but then they'd come back that they weren't. And
Yeah.
that was a happy time. Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
a happy time though? You think how bad it was and something like that. But
Yeah.
that was the Lord working in that, I guess.
See, I don't think I have any more questions, but is there anything else that I didn't cover that...
Well, you want to see what I've got here?
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is what you call a V-mail. And
Okay, this is what the guy that I interviewed yesterday was looking for, but he couldn't
Oh,
find
really?
it. Yeah.
well, it's not a very good writer, but this is from one of the boys that went to our church, and they would write a letter. It was a big letter, and they'd write it, and then they'd put it down to like this size, you know. And then the boys, these all were messed up because it was in a box. But boys was always sending things to their girlfriends, and that was
A little
something.
handkerchief?
Uh-huh. Of course, she
Oh,
never used
so
anything like
sweetheart.
that. And of course, you always had your songs, your favorite songs. You know, Army magazines. Taking a Chance on Love. I remember that. Don't Get Around Much Anymore. They sang that all the time. What was that favorite song you liked? We used to sing all the time.
Was it Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree?
Yeah. And that they sing that a lot. Taking a Chance on Love. You Are My Sunshine. We always sang You Are My Sunshine. And then this is a Valentine I got one time. So I was going to camp.
Are all these from the same guy, or are they from different guys,
uh-huh.
Grandma?
No, this
Just making
is from
sure.
the same one. This is from the same one.
Just making sure.
I had around here a thing came off his uniform. I don't know what for that. In there. I don't see it now. It's around here someplace. A little thing that is on his uniform, a patch, you know.
Yeah.
I don't see it now. Looks around here someplace. It was just a little, had a cat like this.
Oh, yeah.
He was in the store. And here is a paper that shows, goes about signing for the war. I have to be very careful because of how old that is. January the 4th, 1942, and that's a picture.
Oh,
That's
wow.
a front page news that day. And we had what we called a board of directors, and they would come down and they would go through. And I should tell you this too: when the way they selected who was supposed to go, you know, in a call, why, as the boys would come in and register, they were put in one certain place, and now if your name began with B, that didn't mean it was put in alphabetical. It was just put in there as they registered. The first one. The last one, not the last one registered, his name would go on the back. So that way, where they wasn't, you know. And so then they'd send us a letter, and they'd say, you're required to send 15 boys up for physicals on so-and-so date. Well, we would go in there and take the first 15 out of there, and then move those others up, see. And the next ones come in behind. And we'd send these boys all this form letter. And then they would go up, and they met up. There was a train came in at midnight at the train station, and if any from our rural youth bunch went, we all went up and told them goodbye. And this, you heard me tell the story about my skirt. Well, that was where that happened. But anyway, we would go up there and tell them goodbye, and if any of them was coming in and we knew it, we'd try to meet them, but it was easier for us to all go tell them goodbye. But we always called it the milk train. But anyway, these men, they would come in, and just like any other board, but that was the man that was on the board of directors. This man here used to always bring us girls a big sack of candy. Not that we need it. And that's why I told you about that home front news thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is our paper we put out, and it told things what was going on, what we had done. See, there we had a picnic with the children's home, and then anybody that was in the service, well, we had notices what happened to them, and we had jokes about everybody else. It was all about the servicemen and so on like that. And we put this out once a month, and we get together. We'd have a meeting once a month, and we'd get together and put that out. I wish I could find that little thing that had the...
Did you know what that patch meant? Did it mean
well,
anything?
Each unit had, or each group had their, like, see, he was in the, Fort Hood tank destroyer. He was in tank destroyers, what he was. In fact, he got hurt while I was in there. But anyway, it told what section they were in. I'm not going to blame that on Katie, but it was. I don't want to lose it. Yeah. No, I don't find it. But anyway, it's around here someplace. I'll keep it short to you sometime when we have this. But they wore them on their... Oh, well, I can show you how they wore them. I think maybe I might have a picture in here. They wore them on their sleeves. And I probably don't have it. And... Well, these don't show enough of their outfit to show what they had them on, you know.
Yeah.
And there were women that joined, too. They had a wax and the waves, and the wax and the waves, and the...
What were those? Were those just like...
The wax were the Army, and the waves were the Navy. And they did, like, bookwork and things like that. You know Ann Shaw?
I've heard of her.
Well, she was WAC, and... Connie Richardson was in the service. I think she was, in the wax. I could be wrong. But there's several women here in town that have been in the service.
Does that stand for anything?
Women's Army Corps.
And what does the WAVE stand for?
I don't really know.
You don't know?
I really don't know. But they had the Air Force, too, I think. You know, women in the Air Force. But I could be wrong on that. But I know the wax and the waves.
They just did paperwork and stuff.
They did
like
kind of stuff like that. Or maybe worked in the... where they gave out clothes, you know, or maybe in the kitchen, or they didn't go out on the front lines or anything like that. They didn't shoot guns.
Would they have worked in first aid or?
Yeah, nurses. Oh, they had a lot of nurses. You know who you really should have interviewed was Dr. George.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he'd have sat and talked to you for hours. But he was a doctor, so he sat in there. And in fact, I think that's where he met Millie at. But. There's a lot of memories. And then, you remember that, have you ever seen that sign of Uncle Sam? He's got a finger point like the Army wants you, I think. Mm-hmm. Well, I heard him talk the other day, and they said that that was a man from Liberty magazine is the one that done that. That got that started. And those posters was out everywhere. Any post office you went in, that you walk in, that he was pointing at you. He wasn't shooting. Boy, you felt like he was pointing right at you too, you know. But,
yeah.
There's a lot of good memories. There's a lot of memories that are not good. I mean, when you think about the sadness it brings, and I can remember that one family had 5 sons on a ship, and the ship went down. She lost all 5 sons. And there was a Clark boy from Paris that was in bombing at Pearl Harbor.
Oh, really?
So that kind of brought that a little bit close to home.
Yeah.
But that was a horrible thought that morning. I can remember just exactly where I was at. I was on my way to school. We were riding. Eileen was driving that day, and another girl rode with us. And we were coming out the road there right at Route 1, and she said, "You know, war was declared last night." I just went cold. You know, it just made you feel terrible. But. You just went on ahead and lived. You had to, and you did what you could. And Colson's up there at Paris, they had made calendars and that sort of stuff. Well, they shifted and they made ladies' bras and I don't know whether they made anything else besides that or not, but they did sewing up there, and that was quite a big production place up there. A lot of people worked up there, and all women that never worked before started working, and Because, I mean, a lot of their husbands are home, and I think they only got $23 a month when you first start in.
Oh, really?
I think so. Now, if you was married and had a child, or how you got so much for, like that. But I think just like these young men just going, I think it was $23 a month. And then you got to be sergeants, you got more and so on like that. But it wasn't much. Of course, they provide your food and your bed, and I don't think your clothes had to come out of that. I could be wrong. I don't really know about that, see. I mean, I wasn't that close, but, I had cousins, and a lot of people like that was in the service. I had a cousin was in the Navy, and he was shipwrecked. He was in a lifeboat for 3 days, but he got out of it all right. But wouldn't that be a long time out like that? I don't remember where he was at, but he was a long time out like that.
Did any of your friends or anything tell you about the conditions that they were in at the war?
Yes,
like how they lived.
It wasn't good. If he was out in a foxhole, why that wasn't good at all. And they had to eat canned rations, and a lot of these boys now won't eat Spam.
Yeah.
They won't eat Spam at all because that's what they fed them on. And we ate a lot of Spam at home. We didn't have, start out with, I said we had meat, but your meat wouldn't last you through the summer. So in the summertime we'd buy Spam, and but no, I won't eat that. But yeah, they would talk about, but most of them wouldn't do too much talking.
Yeah.
When they were home, they were so glad to be away from it. They just didn't do a lot of talking.
Think about it.
Some were more about talking about than others. Now Wayne Miles would told you a lot. I mean, he had some pictures of Hitler's home.
Oh, really?
But we get those back to his side of the family, and I would like to kept that one. I really would. But well, no, that's not for me. That should be for his side of the family. So, but I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff like that. I'd never seen that until we was cleaning up there.
Yeah.
But a lot of them will talk about it, but now, like my dad, he would never talk. I don't know too much about World War I through him because he never talked about it. But it just depends on who it is, whether they talk or not.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't think I have any more questions.
Well, I can't think of any more.
I think I asked most of them.
We talked about the gas ration, we talked about the food, and there was just, and we couldn't wait to get our mail. We couldn't wait to get our mail. Of course, we done a lot of writing. I mean, about it, like I say, about all these boys in our group would leave. Well, we'd try to write to them. And now this email that I had there, that was from one of the boys in our group. And he was a prisoner of war for a long time, but he got out. But he's dead now, but he got out. But, there's just a lot of them that you wrote to, and a lot of times I wrote to a boy I never did see. I mean, he did that a lot. I was writing to another, and then he gave this fellow my name and address, and we corresponded for a good while, but I never did see him. I think he lives up here around Crispin. In fact, I think that his daughter and Diane are real good friends.
Oh, really?
But I never did see him. But, I mean, you just, I don't know what you hardly wrote about, what was going on around here, but...
No, their letters were censored, weren't they?
Oh, yes.
Read them if there wasn't anything.
A lot of times you'd get a letter and it had stuff cut out of it or blocked out of it, but it wasn't anything to get a letter and have pieces cut out of the letter.
Yeah.
And you had to be careful what you wrote. You didn't write things that you wanted, that you knew would probably be cut out. Because and I expect they were the same way. Some of them, they couldn't even tell where they were at. See, they couldn't even tell where their location was. And if something slipped, I'm sure there was some of them that had ways of letting people know, letting their family know. But, I mean, I was never close to anybody, anything like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, we didn't have anybody just immediately family. Wayne was the closest one. Then I had those cousins and everything. And I wasn't really all that close to my cousins, although, I mean, it was, they lived in Charleston and stuff like that, but we thought a lot of them, but we just didn't, do. We visited them and everything, but it wasn't like somebody lived in the house with you.
Yeah.
But, and I was going to tell you how much it cost me a letter, but I don't remember for sure. Probably 3 cents. but it wasn't very much.
Yeah.
And you'd have airmail too, and that was real light mail. It cost more to mail. It was real light paper, and it cost less to mail that. I mean, more to mail that than it did the other. But it was, you know, it was an experience to go through the war. I'm glad it's over with, and I don't like the looks of things now, but I sure would hate to go through another war.
Another one, yeah.
I mean, you know, you put up with it, but it was, after the boys came back, then things began to flourish, and, you know, and all these fellows that were married and came home, I began to have families, and it was just a happy time in the late 40s. Just a happy time. But
What year did the war end? Like
45.
45, and it started.
Well, 47 was when the Japanese hit. But you know, I got to thinking the other day, we was fighting